Hello, great to have you with us. A big show ahead for you, lots on tap. The more things change, the more things stay the same. We're talking about the never-ending debate over COVID rules. Tonight, Neil Young, the rock star, wants his music pulled from Spotify because of what Joe Rogan says about vaccines on that platform. Meantime, Howard Stern says the unvaccinated should be turned away from hospitals. Go home and die was his quote, but no calls to pull music from Sirius. Just two media giants sharing their opinions, right? Well, there's a new fight tonight over monoclonal antibodies. Governor Ron DeSantis is taking on the FDA. We have a doctor to tell us whether it's still a viable treatment. That's all ahead for us tonight. But we begin with what else? Masks in schools, because what's happening in Virginia right now could happen anywhere in the country, in your state or your town. And that's the pulse of America. Governor Glenn Youngkin, less than 2 weeks on the job, is already being called an authoritarian, divisive, and accused of fueling a culture war. He ran on education, particularly giving parents a say in their child's education. And on day one, issued an executive order giving parents the option to send their child to school wearing a mask or not. 7 suburban school districts in Northern Virginia pushed back, saying they will continue to require the masks. Well, the state's lieutenant governor, Winsome Earl-Sears, then suggested the state could pull funding to those districts that continue to require masks. The lieutenant governor joins us in just a minute to talk about that. A group of parents, meantime, then sued to reverse Governor Youngkin's order, and the governor is trying to dismiss that lawsuit, tweeting, "While the legal process continues, I urge everyone to love your neighbor, to listen to school principals, and trust the legal process." Still, when the opt-out policy went into effect in some schools yesterday in Virginia, there were parents who defied their school districts and sent their kids to class maskless. So, despite everything that's happened, countless raucous school board meetings, a statewide election that turned on education, and an inauguration of the people who won that election, here we are in the middle of a fight over masks. With that, as promised, joining us now, the Lieutenant Governor from Virginia, Winsome Earl-Sears. Your Honor, it's great to have you. We appreciate the time. Let's go to the governor's tweet here and what he said about loving your neighbor. Withholding money doesn't sound like loving your neighbor. Can you hear us now, Your Honor?
Yes, I can hear you now. I'm sorry.
All right, so
go ahead.
With all due respect to the governor's tweet about loving your neighbor, withholding money from districts doesn't sound like loving your neighbor.
Well, what I said at the time is that it's possible. I don't know that he can do that. He's got a lot of different resources and, that he can use. I don't know that he can do that. And in fact, as you know, some parents have filed a lawsuit to see what they can do to continue the mask mandates. But look, what the governor is trying to do is to ensure that the parents make a decision on how their child will be educated. It is really as simple as that. What a concept that parents should be given that choice.
During the campaign, the governor said whether to require masks in schools would be left to localities to decide. So at this point, what's changed?
Well, he has always said that the parents ought to be able to make that decision. And the parents have elected him to be the governor. And so he's really simply fulfilling what he has said that he would do. He did not hide what he wanted to do. And the people decided that this is the governor that they wanted to choose. They have made their choice. And so he is simply allowing the parents to make that decision. Well, really, it is that simple.
What if the local district and its parents want a mask mandate? I mean, shouldn't that be their option too?
Well, the parents will, as you know, that there are some parents who are actually trying to do recalls on some of the school board members that they have voted for, because now that they know the situation, they are trying every possible means that they can to ensure that the choice about how their children will be educated remains with them and not with a government entity.
Your opponents are calling you authoritarians, Lieutenant Governor, and I guess I'm curious, clearly your comment about the money got a lot of headlines. Are you walking that back, or do you want to wait until there's a verdict, as the governor has suggested, let the legal process play out before you make a decision on that?
Yeah, it's going to take some time for the legal process to play out. And I tell you, the bill is probably going to expire, if I'm not mistaken, either August or July. And it might take that long for the state Supreme Court here in Virginia to make a decision. In the meantime, what the governor is saying is listen to your principals, listen to your school board, and follow their directive. This is nothing about authoritarianism. If it were, he would say, my way, no other way. Absolutely. But God forbid, imagine, God forbid that parents should be able to make the decision about how their children should be schooled. Imagine that. What a concept.
Well, the problem with this is, Your Honor, that there's no way you're going to get everyone and every parent in a district to agree one way or the other. We've seen what's happened with this. So how do you come down on, let's say the courts say this is okay, you can have a mask mandate, then what?
Well, then we were going to have a mask mandate. I mean, the courts would have made a decision. And until we can change the laws, it will be what it will be. We are a country of rules. We are a country of laws, and we respect and appreciate the laws. The governor made an executive order, and some parents have sued. We're waiting for that decision to come down. In the meantime, what he has said in no uncertain terms is follow the directive of your local school board. If they're going to keep masks in place, then follow that. If they have decided to remove the masks, then follow that. You know, here's the real meat of it. Private schools have figured this out a long time ago. Private schools have been open 5 days a week here in Virginia for about 2 years now, when the public schools were not. And so if they can figure it out, then surely public schools can. You know, I was just in a public school this morning, and it is one of the lower performing schools. And I tell you, the children were already 2 years behind grade level. And now that we had COVID restrictions, they're a further 2 years behind. These children are 4 years behind. How are we going to get that back?
Is it possible?
Not by staying out of school, and not by locking school down. And that's why this law came into being. It's Senate Bill 1303, and the patron is the medical doctor in our Senate. And they figured out, well, let's get something in place so the schools can reopen, because the children are suffering.
Right.
And she has already stated it was never a mask mandate. It was to follow the CDC recommendations. Right. Now, the CDC did not mandate masks. It recommended the mask.
We'll see where it goes on that. Your Honor, one other question for you. The governor set up a hotline for parents to report schools for teaching critical race theory. I'm curious, is there a rash of secret CRT teaching going on that we don't know about? Why the need for a hotline?
So I hear the sarcasm in your voice, and it's unfortunate because it is being taught here. If you would look at the information, you could find that the Washington Post itself found out that in fact $314,000 some dollars was paid to a CRT type contractor in order to find out how we should teach it.
It's not being taught in K through 12 though, right, Your Honor?
In 2015, then the school board, the state Board of Education provided guidelines on how to teach it. And some other monies have been spent on that. So, you know, we're using semantics, but the real meat of this thing is we're going to teach history. We're going to teach slavery. We're going to teach about redlining, which really, to me, not having a choice about where to send your children to school is the new red line, because you are bounded by that zip code, and God help you if your children are not learning. That's the only school you will have for your children. We are saying that we're going to teach all of history, everything that needs to be taught. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. And by the way, I don't want anything sugarcoated, because you know what we know about history, that we don't learn from history. So we got to teach it.
Right.
But while we're doing that, let us teach children how to be overcomers. how to see the glass as half full. This morning, again, I was in a school where the children kind of felt like there was no hope. And how dare we pile on that instead of saying, you can succeed, you will succeed, we are going to help you do that. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Give the children a hope and a future so that they can create generational wealth.
Half full sounds great, Your Honor, because they have been through an awful lot in the last couple of years. And we should point out, too, your history with the Board of Education as well gives you a good and strong voice. And we appreciate you joining us tonight. Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Earl Sears, thanks for the time.
Thank you, and God bless America.
All right, take care. Shifting gears now to another education story. The SAT will be going completely digital by 2024. The college admissions exam will also be reduced from 3 hours long to 2. And this comes amid a number of other changes in college admissions more generally, many of them resulting from the pandemic for starters. A number of colleges have completely eliminated the requirement that applicants even submit an SAT or an ACT score at all. One former dean of admissions, Sean Abbott, says his college stopped relying heavily on the SAT, and the number of students of color enrolled actually climbed. And he joins us now. Sean Abbott, Vice Provost at Temple University. Sean, it's great to have you as well. Based on the op-ed I read from you, the SAT is essentially becoming irrelevant, or at least less relevant for sure.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's becoming irrelevant, but and I'll freely acknowledge that, you know, I'm someone who doesn't believe that the SAT or the ACT, for that matter, is the root of all evil. It's a perfectly respectable, reputable test that college universities have relied on for decades to make admission decisions. But, you know, the reality is the COVID-19 pandemic did one great thing for higher education, and that was that it really forced college universities and admission offices like the one that I represent to reevaluate what they value in their own admission processes and really take stock of other variables and other characteristics and other credentials we can evaluate candidates on.
What else are you using now, Sean?
So for us, we lean more heavily now than we've ever have before on things like transcripts and portfolio scores, audition scores from students that have artistic credentials. We rely more heavily on resumes. We rely more heavily on the curriculum that a student has taken advantage of in their high school. We pay more attention to their math and science background. We pay more attention to whether or not they have 2, 3, or 4 years of a foreign language. I think folks really underestimate just how much we capture on students who apply for admission, and the real focus is really about one particular test, when in reality, it's not the only variable we've ever considered.
And what are the results been like?
Well, I mean, for us, we definitely saw that just even removing that barrier of the SAT or ACT as a requirement, because we still allow students to submit those scores if they want to, just removing the requirement, removing that obstacle, even without employing any kind of affirmative action in our admission process, we saw that our students of color, particularly students who are Black and Latino and Latina, enrolled in record numbers. We've never had a larger Black student community at Temple. We've never had a larger Latino or Latina student community at Temple in the history of our time. So for us, it was wonderful news.
Yeah. Sounds like change is already underway with the SAT and ACT as far as enrollment goes and applications. And we know, too, that there will be a lot of changes coming over the next year or two as well with it going digital. Sean Abbott, Temple University Vice Provost, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Take a look at this. A bunch of weapons and ammo seized in California was headed for the cartels. 6 arrested. We'll ask a former ICE agent if this makes a dent in their operation. Plus, something the Homeland Security Secretary said about illegal immigrants is raising eyebrows. We'll play that for you. And don't forget, you can follow us on social media at Joe Donlon TV. We'll be back after this. It was a busy day in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas today at the southern border, where more than 2 million migrants crossed into the U.S. last year. There to catch all the action, NewsNation's own border report. And we also have Robert Sherman, new to the NewsNation team. Robert, it's good to see you. Tell us a little bit more about what you found on the ground there in the last week.
Good to see you as well, Joe. And just to give you a little bit of context as to where we are, we're standing on Mission, Texas, right across the way. That's Mexico. In between, this is the Rio Grande River. About an hour ago, we saw this area humming with activity with a couple of dozen boats that were out here. Here's a large part of it. I want to show you this video. This is what a lot of the migrants that we've seen down here in South Texas look like. You see families, you see children hugging one another. This is the humanitarian aspect that we've seen here, which oftentimes garners a lot of attention. We've been speaking with law enforcement pretty periodically down here, and they say that this is a story with two separate heads. On the one side, you have the humanitarian angle here, but you also have the criminality, the drugs, the human smuggling that has been making headlines as of late. Those two need to be handled separately, but they both need to be handled. That's their perspective.
So what happens with these folks, Robert? I'm curious. I know if these are unaccompanied minors, they're allowed in. What happens with families like that? What are you hearing about that?
And what we've seen, we actually went to a local shelter yesterday, and a lot of families with children under the age of 6 will end up staying here in the United States for the reason that they cannot be sent home. Under Title 42,
right.
A lot of single men, for example, are supposed to be sent back over the border. There's been some questions as to exactly how much of that has been happening, and that's something that we're hoping to dive into a little bit more this week. A big focus here has been drug activity from Texas DPS. We actually want to show you this photo. So this is actually nearly $500,000 worth of marijuana. This is part of it that was seized here in the Rio Grande Valley sector alone. This is the crisis that law enforcement wants people to focus on more. Take a listen to Texas DPS from earlier today.
Last year, our DPS personnel seized over 1,000 pounds of fentanyl, which is equivalent to over 250 million lethal doses. We got to shift the focus from the humanitarian effort that we saw, of course, back in 2021, and we're still seeing it today with the families and unaccompanied children, but we need to focus on the criminal activity.
And think about that for a second, Joe. 250 million doses of fentanyl, fatal doses. That's more than half the population of the United States. And that's only what Texas DPS alone has seized here in Texas, in the States, after it's made its way through a port of entry. So that is the message that law enforcement is trying to convey, the true danger on the ground here when covering the border, but separating those two aspects.
Yeah, and it's something we've covered a lot here at NewsNation. Listen, Robert, it's good to have you, and it's great to see you, and we are happy to have you on the border for us moving forward. That's Robert Sherman. Take care.
Thanks, Joe.
Continuing our coverage now, the southern border, 6 Americans are now facing charges in connection with providing one of the most dangerous Mexican drug cartels with high-powered firearms and ammunition. FBI authorities say the suspects smuggled military-grade firepower to the drug trafficking organization and are now charged with violating export laws by smuggling weapons and attempted smuggling as well. Joining me now, someone who has a lot of experience with these dangerous cartels, retired ICE Special Agent Victor Avila. Victor, what do you make of this? I saw it and thought, well, 6 people doesn't sound like a lot, but when you read into it, it sounds like a pretty big deal.
Absolutely a big deal, Joe. And let me tell you, I know this personally, being affected by gun walking operations from the past, like Operation Fast and Furious, that killed my partner, Special Agent Jaime Zapata, and injured me. So I know exactly what this does when you allow these weapons to go into the hands of criminal organizations, especially the deadly drug cartels. All you're going to do is wreak havoc and kill many, many Mexican citizens. In this case, we've already lost 2 American agents with these type of incidents.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Victor. We concentrate so much on what's coming from Mexico into the U.S. How does this work from the U.S. side? What are they doing?
Well, they're trying to, they know that that they could get their hands on easily on these weapons coming from the U.S. side. The money, as it flows south, we all know the drugs flow north, but the money goes south to the cartels. And in my experience, we used to do a lot of southbound operations, and maybe it's time to up those type of operations at our port of entries to stop the flow. I currently find myself in George West, Texas, where it's a big corridor. Here on US 59 and US 281 intersection, where the money is flowing south and the alien loads and the drug loads are going north. So it's happening everywhere.
So we mentioned 6 people arrested. How much of a dent does this make, Victor?
It's always good. It's always good to bring these people to justice. The criminal continues to happen in the southern border. I just came back from a 5-day tour there at the border, and it's out of hand. Every time I go down there, I think it's going to get better, but it's only getting worse. What you guys just reported is spot on, with single adult males completely being released into our country with no checks whatsoever. This is a national security and frankly, it's a public safety issue.
Alejandro Mayorkas said recently that being here illegally doesn't necessarily trigger enforcement action. Here's a little more of what he said, and we'll get your comment after.
Unlawful presence in the United States will alone not be a basis for an immigration enforcement action, but rather we will allocate our efforts, we will allocate our resources on those individuals who present a current public safety threat.
So to give this a little more context, Victor, it sounds like they're focusing on people who are posing an immediate threat. What exactly does that comment mean to you?
It's an incredible comment coming from the Secretary of Homeland Security, where they have basically abolished ICE. We know that they wanted to do that from the beginning. They said it over and over, and they have systematically and administratively abolished the interior enforcement of immigration services, the enforcement removal operations. There is no one looking for illegal aliens within our country, especially, let me say, not just the people just here for illegal immigration purposes only, but even criminal aliens. They've done away with operations that go after sex offenders that have been convicted of sex offender crimes that are illegally present in our country. They're not going after them, and that's why they don't want to release this report that was due back in October that will show those numbers, that there have been almost no deportations under this president.
I guess that would lead to the question of what is ICE doing then now, Victor? And I'm curious also if there is someone who's pulled over, say for a traffic stop, would that trigger enforcement?
Well, it's supposed to. If an illegal alien is encountered by a law enforcement, they're supposed to then be taken into the criminal justice system and advise ICE, get the detainer. But that, unfortunately, is not happening with our sanctuary city policies, and it's not triggered. It's not triggering what the standard operating procedures should be under our laws. They're not enforcing them, just like they're not enforcing them at the border. They're not enforcing them in the interior of our country as well. And again, this is a big safety issue because the last thing I want to continue to seeing is people be victims at the hands of illegal aliens in our country.
Yeah. Retired ICE Special Agent Victor Avila, it's always good to see you, Victor. Thanks for the time.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.
You bet. We do have some breaking news to pass along right now. The results are in. Big Papi. Boston Red Sox legend David Ortiz is the newest member of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Others on the ballot this year included Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Curt Schilling, among others. It was their 10th and final year on the ballot. Clemens, Bonds, and Sosa have been directly tied to using performance-enhancing drugs known as PEDs. More on that as we get it. Young and Rogan are featured on the internet platform Spotify. Young says Rogan has been spreading misinformation about COVID and now says Spotify can have him or me, but not both. Meantime, singer and guitarist Eric Clapton, who claims a severe reaction to the vaccine, says the vaccinated are victims of mass formation hypnosis and comparing a lot of vaccine messaging to subliminal advertising. Reason senior editor Robbie Suave joins us again. Robbie, it's always good to see you. So which aging rock star do you count on for your medical information? We're wondering, Neil Young, Eric Clapton, Peter Frampton, maybe Keith Richards?
I only know who some of those people are. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Rub it in, Robbie, rub it in.
I'm so sorry. So sorry, my friend. No, look, they don't have to. If Neil Young doesn't want his music on Spotify, that's his choice, or I assume it's his choice. It has to do with whatever arrangement the licensing is with Spotify. So fine. But look, I don't think that I listen to Rogan sometimes. I generally catch the highlights. There have certainly been things said on that show about the vaccines and about the pandemic that I think are wrong. But there's also been good information, and there are also some things that are genuinely up for dispute. There are some things the health officials get wrong. So I think the position that, like, everyone who disagrees with me, everyone I think is not correct, they should be shut shut out of the ability to share their perspective, I think that betrays a certain weakness or a lack of confidence that you can argue against bad speech, or a certainty, a smug certainty that you know exactly what the truth is, a certainty that has not been borne out for most of this pandemic because the experts have gotten things wrong. They've changed their mind. Right. So let's maybe hold off on the kind of sweeping condemnation of people we disagree with.
Well, a lot of people listen to him. I think it's somewhere around 11 million per podcast.
It's huge.
Or something. It's gigantic. Here's what Rogan's close friend Dana White of the UFC said about it. Here's a clip.
He's a brilliant guy. He does his homework and he knows what he's talking about. And guess what? This is America. And you can have your own opinions about these things and you can voice them. That's what the country was built on. And all these little whiny that don't like it, too bad, man. Too bad.
Sounds a lot like what you just said, Robbie, without the F-bombs.
Yeah, I think that was the R-rated version of the more civil comment that I made. And it is important to note that Joe Rogan is interviewing guests, some of them controversial, some of them who make statements I don't agree with or I don't think are supported. Robert Malone is a COVID original inventor of some of the mRNA technology. Brilliant man. I don't agree with him on anything. I think some of what he said is contradicted by other expert people. But Rogan's kind of facilitating that discussion, and it's just very dangerous or reckless to say that no, only the CDC, anything that departs from what they think on any subject should not be aired. Like, where would that get us? They screwed up testing. They changed their mind about masks. Originally, they said the vaccines were stopping the spread. We now know they're still a great idea. They still protect you substantially from severe disease and death. But we know it's more complicated than we thought initially. And I don't. Some people, not the majority, but some people might have a health reason not to take a vaccine. So I don't want to totally chill conversation of this subject, even though I'm very pro-vaccine, and I think it is the right choice for the vast majority of people.
But this gets us to the comment Eric Clapton said about vaccinated people being hypnotized. I'm not really sure what we're supposed to do with that. It's unfortunate that we can't all just come to the same conclusion and agreement that take it or not, but the vaccines work. They do what they're designed to do.
Yeah, the people dying today, and it's sad, it's regrettable, overwhelmingly the unvaccinated. The vaccines are clearly protecting people from severe disease and death, and that ought to be good enough. I think we should be able to get back to normal life because we have this tool that I encourage people to take. Yeah. But, it should be between you and your doctor, and it should be your choice, and think about it. But there's good reason for, extraordinary number of people to take it.
Hey, Robbie, let's get you on an Olympic issue. The athletes will be provided the appropriate quantities of condoms for free. At the same time, though, they're being instructed to minimize hugs and high fives. So heavy petting is okay, not light petting, apparently.
Yeah, this shows you the confusion of so many COVID mitigation policies. I swear to you, I'm not sure if I can even discuss it on your show. I think I saw a guide put out by, I think, the public health authorities in New York City that was, well, don't have, sexual involvement. But if you are going to do it, these are the right positions, and we'd rather you be masked. It's so ridiculous. Wow. So ridiculous, people. Think through this stuff.
Yeah, well, I was wondering what the science was behind that, and I know you're not a doctor, so we won't ask you. We'll just take your answer and appreciate it. Robbie, it's always good to have you, my friend. Take care.
Thank you.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is blasting the FDA after the agency restricted the use of COVID-19 antibody drugs from Regeneron and Eli Lilly. FDA officials say they made the move because, quote, data shows these particular treatments are highly unlikely to be active against the Omicron variant. So Florida is now closing its monoclonal antibody treatment sites. It's a treatment DeSantis has made a cornerstone of his COVID-19 response, and now he's demanding the Biden administration reverse the decision.
This is not based on a clinical trial. This is not even peer-reviewed. And so this is something that they claim shouldn't be used because we have Omicron. And what we would say in Florida is we have had people use it, and we've had good results.
I want to bring in now Dr. Bob Lahita of St. Joseph's Institute for Autoimmune and Rheumatic Diseases, and he's also the author of the new book, Immunity Strong. Dr. Bob, it's always good to have you. So let me ask you, who's right on this?
Well, Joe, I think the government acted precipitously because just this very day, I had one of my colleagues who was quite ill with COVID, and he asked for the monoclonals, and he can't get them. The only one that is available, I'm told, is sotorvimab. And that is very, very hard to get because it's in very short supply. So what they're saying is go with the Merck pill or go with the Pfizer pill. And that also is extremely difficult. So I think Governor DeSantis has a good case here.
So why would they do this? And as I understand it, they've removed the emergency use authorization. Is that correct? What does that mean? And I'm sure there are people watching who, if they had a loved one, maybe they don't think it is effective. But man, I'd sure want to try it, wouldn't you?
Yes, I think that's a good point. And the only place you can get it is in the emergency room of a medical hospital. And that we can understand because monoclonals are given intravenously, and that is the way the process should go. But right now, if you go to the emergency room, you will not find it there. And emergency use authorization is not full FDA approval anyhow. So they can easily pull it as they did.
So is there data on whether this is effective against Omicron, or why have they decided to pull this?
Well, apparently the Regeneron and Lilly product is not effective against Omicron. And what the government is saying is that 99% of the infections currently are from Omicron. Right. So what's the point of giving the monoclonal? But there is one monoclonal, very short supply, Satorvimab, which is effective apparently against the monoclonal. But again, try to get the pill if you're recently infected and very, very sick. The pills are not available very easily either.
Doc, I know we got spoiled with the vaccine coming as quickly as it did. The vaccines, plural, I should say. I guess there are some who might wonder why we aren't in a better position now with treatments 2 years in.
Well, we are. Amazingly, we have two medications, one from Merck and one from Pfizer. The Pfizer one is exceptionally effective, but I tried to get it today for a couple of my colleagues who are very sick, and I was unable to get it because the hospital formulary doesn't carry it. Most drugstores don't carry it. So I had to search high and low to get the pill. That's what the government is saying we should be using now, specifically Paxlovid, which is the Pfizer pill. So this is really important.
Yeah. Is there a way they can increase production, Doctor?
Well, the president has asked for an increase in production. He wants billions of tablets produced very, very quickly. But you know how that goes. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a couple of months to ramp up, Joe.
All right, Dr. Bob Lahita, again, it's good to see you as always. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
A heavyweight champion steps into the ring to take on the UFC. His beef with the multi-billion-dollar franchise's payout rules and why he wants to switch to boxing instead. Meet the man who's trying to get dozens of fallen sailors from the USS Arizona as well, sunk during the attack on Pearl Harbor, identified, and their remains returned to their families. Why is the government making that so hard? We'll get into that ahead. Plus, Bob Costas was the face of NBC's Olympic coverage, now not holding back on what he thinks about China hosting this year's game. We'll have that for you ahead. Today, the Biden administration providing a series of classified briefings to congressional leaders as the president weighs how to respond to a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine. The president said today, quote, "We have no intention of putting American forces or NATO forces in Ukraine," end quote, but warned Vladimir Putin he will face severe economic consequences should Russia choose to invade. What kind of sanctions? For the answer to that, let's bring in NewsNation's Kelly Meyer live for us at the White House. Kelly?
Hey there, Joe. Well, you know, this is something interesting because the White House has been warning about these sanctions for quite a while, but now they are finally detailing what some of this may look like as they're revealing some of their other plans. And we're seeing the troops standing by ready, evacuations from Ukraine. Now they are detailing these specific sanctions. They say these will be massive consequences, and they're getting more aligned with financial sanctions with European allies. They also are considering what they call export controls. Now, these are not specifically sanctions, but rather trade restrictions. And this would consider controlling exports of semiconductor technology to Russia should they invade Ukraine. This would impact Russian industries like AI, quantum computing, and aerospace. But it's important to note the U.S. hasn't deployed any of these yet. They are hinging on whether Putin decides to invade Ukraine or not. And the White House says they are also working with several countries to be ready for what could be a natural gas shortage. And that's, again, hinging on whether Putin invades. The administration keeping those details close to the chest here. They don't want to tip off Putin, who they're working with, and where this could be going. Here's the White House talking about this today.
We've also been working to identify additional volumes of non-Russian natural gas from North Africa and the Middle East, Asia, and the United States. We're in discussion with major natural gas producers around the globe to understand their capacity and willingness to temporarily surge natural gas output.
And Joe, the White House assuring that all of this won't affect gas prices here at home. There's also been discussion, you must have been hearing, of this Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Republicans here on Capitol Hill pushing the administration to sanction that now before Putin may decide to invade Ukraine. The Biden administration, along with Germany, have been hesitant to issue those sanctions right away. There has been a debate here on Capitol Hill going on about that. The Biden administration is pushing again, lobbying against those sanctions, and we'll wait and see again what happens next and what Putin decides here. We're waiting to see whether he will invade into Ukraine.
And whether he would shut off that oil and gas supply to Germany, as you discussed, in the event the U.S. does provide these sanctions. So there's a lot to unpack there. But Kelly Meyer, we appreciate the update. Thank you, live from D.C. tonight. Absolutely. My next guest does not want to forget the fallen from one of the most infamous days in U.S. history, Pearl Harbor. Randy Stratton, son of a USS Arizona battleship survivor, is determined to DNA test and identify human remains from the ship 80 years after it was sunk during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Let's welcome in now Randy Stratton. Randy, it's great to have you. Give us an idea of where we are right now with this process. Where does it stand as far as the Pentagon, what it wants to do?
Well, right now we're waiting on our amendment that was sent up to Congress by Representative Doug Lamborn to determine whether or not and how they're going to go about testing for the DNA and bringing these guys home with outside companies. And we've offered to do it for free with two companies, said that they would test and do all the testing, send out all the sample kits, everything that we need. And then we have 50 of the sheriff's departments would go out and collect the DNA and store the DNA at their crime lab, because that's what they're waiting on is the FRS, the family reference samples.
Right.
And they need 60%. And, you know, they're getting old. We've got 2 survivors left, and they're both 100 years old.
How would this work, Randy, if you got your way? I would imagine there are a lot of challenges and difficulties as well in identifying these remains all these years later.
Yeah, like I say, we're working with 2 companies. One is Andy, which identified al-Baghdadi when he blew himself up. So they've got military clearance, and they've jumped on board and said they'll help us do it for free, probably $15 million, and this wouldn't have to worry, as the Navy wouldn't have to worry about the cost. And I think that's one thing that they're looking at is, you know, we think 142 unknowns in the punch bowl, and we're not touching any of the guys on board because that's their final resting place. But we want, you know, the outside interest to be able to go in there and help us with finding these guys and letting them, the family members, have closure after 80 years. And we're just not getting that with DPA right now.
Right. What's the holdup, Randy, and what do you see as the ultimate resolution here?
Well, the holdup is DPA just allowing us to go in with our companies and being able to do it because they don't like outside interest, even though they've allowed other companies to do that. But, you know, we spent 16 years, my dad was saved by Joe George. We spent 16 years battling the Navy to get him decorated. So we're going to battle till this gets done, because I know my father would want his shipmates back home where he had a great parade when he passed away, and we want the family members to be able to decide whether or not they go back on board or they go back to their final resting place with mom or dad.
Right. I know that your dad wrote a best-selling book as well that you're working now to make into a movie. So we'll stay in touch. Keep us posted on the effort here, and it's great to have you. That's Randy Stratton.
Can I give you the website?
Sure, go ahead.
If people have relatives that are interested or have family members that have been on board the USS Arizona, please go to USS Arizona unknown@gmail.com, and they would send us a message, and we could get all the testing kits out to them free of charge.
All right. Randy Stratton, again, thanks for the time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
All right. Let's bring in Leland Valance right now, unfittered.
We got to get new mugs if that's happened.
Is that
All
it?
right.
Yeah, rebranding. So
I answered everything.
Olympics in China, and some interesting comments from Bob Costas about what he thinks is ahead. He's in a tough spot. They paid what, $8 billion for the rights.
Well,
They
have to build. They have to build it up. Costas is no longer with NBC. Kudos to him for actually speaking the truth. Would have been great if he'd done it when he was in Sochi or when he was in Beijing in 2008 working for NBC. He didn't do it then. But it goes to this point, and I think Costas makes a very important one, which is that the IOC has basically put the Olympics up for sale to the highest bidder of genocidal regimes. And if people can start making that point in Beijing, where there is no snow, there's a genocide going away, there's no spectators because of COVID, and people start saying that and calling the IOC out, that makes it worthwhile.
Well, I think in Bob's defense, he has said an awful lot about the Olympics. He's gone to bat over a number of these things, and the NFL as well, which some argue cost him his job with NFL
over the
coverage.
CTE stuff? Sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, that and more at the top of the hour. Leland will have that for you. As we come back here, amazing video to share. A quick-thinking police officer saves a choking toddler as their parents watch in horror. We have that video and more ahead. Now, on a heartbreaking story that we've been following, 2 young NYPD officers were shot while responding to a domestic dispute in Harlem over the weekend. 22-year-old officer Jason Rivera died Friday night. He was on the force for just more than a year. And today we learned his partner, 27-year-old Wilbert Mora, has also now died. He had been fighting for his life over the weekend. New York mourns the loss of each officer as the crime in that city is skyrocketing. Brings us to tonight's American Snapshot, appreciating our police. A couple of amazing things we've seen officers do recently in spite of the challenges they face. In L.A., a police sergeant was on patrol when he saw parents yelling for help with an unconscious toddler, and he jumped into action.
Over here. I don't know, baby, I don't know. She was in the car with me. I don't know what's fucking. Please, it's okay, mommy. It's okay. Please. Mommy, it's okay, my love.
Oh, wow. As you can see, he cleared her windpipe, and she was just fine. Livermore, California now. Officers from the local police force paid a surprise visit to a 3-year-old, Wyatt Hartman, for his birthday, and the video melted our hearts.
How are you?
That is too cool.
Oh, my God.
That's a great picture right there. In fact, we're going to give it the American Snapshot. Community policing in action. That's our time. Thanks for joining us. On Balance, next. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.